Hey, True Believers, Englentine here. So we were asked a question. We were asked, what are the best years of Marvel Comics? Now, I came up with a quick answer, and the reason why it's so broad is I've been on record as saying that the best years of DC Comics are the ones between the end of Crisis and Flashpoint, and that's about a 25-year time span. So we were asked the same thing, and here are the answers. W asks, what were the best 25 years for Marvel? In my opinion, it was from 1967 all the way up to 1992. If I'm to pick a 25-year period, that would be.
That's a broad.
Well, he asked for 25 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess you don't have a choice. It's like it's.
Yeah. Well, and at first I thought, well, yeah, obviously 1963 to 1987, right? But there were actually some decent books coming out through 1990. Plus, as much as I love the Silver Age, some of those first issues weren't quite Spider-Man or weren't quite Daredevil.
They took a while to grow into what they would one day be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, the X-Men even and a lot of the characters too late during the 90s. And you start seeing the collapse of Marvel, and it's not as good either. So I would have to say about 1967, they've got a handle on the characters. They're just getting out of the campy 60s, and we got the new batch of creators who want to write some serious comic book stories. So I'm saying, yeah, about 1967 to about 1992. That would be my choice, because you've got the Claremont run. You got Steranko in there. You got what's his name on Captain Marvel and the Silver Surfer titles. Oh shit! So what is his name? Sterling. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Starling. You got some great runs from some great creators, all up and down that line. You got some great creations as well. Like the Punisher and that's the only one I could think of. But yes, trust me, Power Man, Ghost Rider, all the sorts of great creations during the 70s. And yeah, that would be my choice. Anybody? Yeah, Frank Miller runs.
I'd agree with that. That's a fair guesstimate for the peak 25
25 is too big of a slice for me to narrow down. But my golden era of Marvel is the mid 80s to the mid 90s. So obviously, just as long as that slice includes that part, I think. And I think you made a good point. After about the mid 90s, Marvel started breaking down.
Yep.
So I probably wouldn't go forward past that. So going backwards makes the most sense.
Well,
and you did have that Silver Age. But I think basically you should say when Stan Lee was the publisher.
Yeah.
Like that was the best time of Marvel. But when Jim Shooter became the editor-in-chief under Stan Lee, things just were like rolling. Like it's the best time in comics. Like you had Stan Lee as publisher, and you had probably the best editor-in-chief that's ever been in comics rolling and just making things happen. And if you look at that history of Marvel Comics from when he took over, I think was in the late 70s, he took over, and you just watch year after year Marvel progressing and building, and every year was better than the previous, all the way up until when did he leave? Like early 90s, like 91, 92, 90. He left and then I think DeFalco took over, but man, it was just like, oh my goodness, it was just getting better and better. And you had the McFarlane era came in, and Spider-Man became, this amazing thing. Like people kind of forget things were different back then. Like the characters were viewed way differently than we think of, like how they are today. It's weird to me to see like Captain America, for example, be like this big Marvel character, when during my time back in the 80s, like he was sort of like this D-list character. Like only like the hardcore real comic nerds or the war guys, they like their Captain America. But you're just like kids like me, they was like, whatever, Captain America.
I was a huge Captain America fan. But I know what you're talking about. In the Avengers, he was a big deal. Outside the Avengers, not so much.
And well, I'm the same way. Like I was an Iron Man fan, and he was another D-list character, but I loved him. I'm not saying the characters were dumb. It's just they weren't popular. And nowadays, because of the movies and just things have changed, I come into the scene and I'm like, whoa, Captain America's more popular than X-Men? This is weird. I'm not used to this.
Fortunately, I think the movies have helped us realize something that I've always maintained, which is the lists are BS and have always been BS. The characters that are the most popular aren't necessarily the characters that have always deserved to be. They just have the most name recognition and the most approachable concepts.
So now we're being asked by Dominic Powell, who do we think, besides Jim Shooter, was the best EIC for Marvel? And are you including Stan? Because I'd put Stan Lee.
That's a tough one.
I'd put him in there because he's the one that ushered in the Marvel Universe.
Well, yeah, but he did it as a writer more before he was the EIC. It's hard to say. I don't really know how good of an editor-in-chief he was.
Yeah.
I don't think he was editor-in-chief for very long even. Because he kind of went into that publisher role.
Well,
and back then, the term was very different then. Like, they didn't have like the same
Weisenberg. I mean, who would you say?
I don't know. I mean, maybe DeFalco. Maybe? I don't know. It's hard to say because he kind of wrote on the coattails.
But they were still popular, and he had to deal with the rock stars, so I could see how that might be challenging. Because after Jim Shooter, if you're thinking about the period there, X-Men were still going strong. It wasn't to the point where it was a complete breakdown of tinfoil covers and glow in the dark, which I never understood the glow in the dark cover, or the let's put this in the polymer bag that people are going to want to keep it in, or it's not mint condition. Comic books are meant to be read, ladies and gentlemen. Shock, surprise. So Roy Thomas is what Maranya's saying.
Yeah, Roy Thomas. I don't know, man. Jim Shooter just had this long run during a time where he elevated Marvel Comics to. It's kind of like equivalent to what's his nuts did at Apple,
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Like, you go, well, who's the best CEO of Apple? But it's not Steve Jobs, and you're just like, did anyone do anything besides him? Everyone just kind of like sailed the ship. I mean, I guess if you look at DeFalco, it's like he rode the coattails, but then he was also. Didn't he kind of go during the time where Marvel crumbled? So
yeah. Well, I just looked it up because I wanted to know, okay, what time was Roy Thomas? And Roy Thomas may have to get this as well. You might have to mention him a little bit more.
He definitely deserves to be in the conversation.
Fantastic Four. He's 1972, 1977. So that's What If. That's the first Marvel and DC crossover. That's bringing Star Wars to comics. Almost the best time for Fantastic Four, the 1970s. So yeah,
wasn't that also the time of the Steve Englehart run of Strange? I want to say that was.
And the Ghost Rider and so forth and so on. A lot of good stuff under his run. So yeah, maybe.
Aiden asks, is reading the Marvel Ultimate Universe and stopping before Ultimatum worth it now? That's a good question. I don't know.
I say go all the way, read Ultimatum, and that way you could just put it down and you'll never want to continue it. It's like watching this interesting storyline, and then at the end, the writer just takes a big dump on the book that you're reading. Yeah, I go all the way. I love reading Ultimatum. I like reading Ultimatum the way I like watching The Room.
So it's like watching Lost?
It's no, it's Lost at least has some sort of quality to it. Ultimatum.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong, so I'm not gonna sit here and try and defend Ultimatum.
Ultimatum is like 3 10-year-olds in the same room going, hey, you know what would be cool? Let's put this in. And they're like, yeah, Blobby.
I meant the Ultimate Universe as a whole. Read all the Ultimate, and then Ultimatum is basically the Lost.
Yeah, because the last episode, I get it. Yeah.
If Ultimatum is The Room, then it's not, oh, hi, Mark. It's, oh, hi, my sister that I'm also having a relationship with because reasons.
Yeah, I actually... I read Ultimate 6 not too long ago for a patron video. And I used to say I like Bendis's run on Ultimate Spider-Man. At least he had that. Now I've got to go back. I got to check this out because Ultimate 6 sucked. It was not good. I remember it being good and exciting, and I was like, wow, this is one of my favorite miniseries. I really do dig this. And then when I read it, I went, nothing freaking happens.
So I think the consensus is
Nothing happens.
it's at least worth it to read, even if you don't read Ultimate. Like, is it if you stop at Ultimatum?
Yes.
Because it's really just a giant Elseworlds thing, right? It's all doesn't matter. It's its own thing.
You get the same stories, but they're told differently. You know, you get the symbiote story from Spider-Man.
Right.
You get
it's kind of like watching. It's like the movie versions.
Yeah.
Except they did it in the comics. Like weird. But,
the movies actually take a lot from the Ultimate Universe.
We're right, but it's the same kind of concept. Like, where like the movies take what you kind of know, but they change stuff around. But they did it in the comic. I really been want to reading these because of the talents behind. I mean, Mark Millar made his name in the Ultimate line.
There you go, guys. What do you think? Do you agree with the time period? Narrow it down a little bit to about. There go the racers. To about 5 years, maybe 10 years. What are your favorite years of Marvel Comics? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to click like and share and subscribe if you haven't done it already. But more importantly, make sure your notifications are on for all notifications and ring that bell. Don't want you to miss anything. Cool things are happening around these parts. So also, if you don't mind helping out the channel, go on over to Patreon or to Ko-Fi. The link's in the description below. You could drop $1 in the till in the little tip jar, or on Ko-Fi, you can commission your own video. Just tell me what topic and what subject, and we will get that video out ASAP. I'd like to thank everybody who's done that already, and to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.